Hey everyone, Clio here, and welcome to the start of another reading vlog. I'm just popping in here because I'm future Clio, who's actually wearing the same as the Clio from the first clip, which is weird, but okay. I'm just popping in here to kind of specify that this is going to be a spoiler-free reading vlog for Rhythm of War. So in case you haven't read this book yet, it's perfectly fine for you to watch this reading vlog. I won't be spoiling anything in it. And another thing I need to warn you guys about is that it's basically just me updating you guys every single time that I have something to mention, because there's near to no B-roll within this video, so it's just a whole lot of updates of me talking about the book. So if you have no interest in Stormlight Archive, if you don't want to even know about my experience unless you've read the book, then I would suggest just clicking away, because this video is not going to be for you. But I hope that there are still people out there who will enjoy this video, because I definitely enjoyed being able to process my thoughts about this book while I was talking to you guys, and I hope that that will also help me when it comes around to like reviewing the book and making a full review video as well, which I will definitely be doing as well. But so yeah, without further ado, let's dive back into the video. Hi, and welcome to the start of another reading vlog. So I am currently impatiently awaiting the arrival of Rhythm of War. So this is going to be, unlike my just like weekly reading vlogs, this is going to be a Rhythm of War centered reading vlog. I'm hoping that that will also coincide with a weekly reading vlog, because I'm hoping for this one to go up next Friday, but we'll see. Oathbringer reread did definitely take me longer than expected, but I have good hopes as always, and so also with the fact that it'll be the first time that I'm reading this one and I will be on holiday, I am already on holiday, makes me think that hopefully I can get through it in a week. But so I pre-ordered two editions. I pre-ordered the UK signed hardcover edition, and I pre-ordered the US paperback edition. The US paperback has not moved, and I've been hearing things about like how the US paperback isn't released on release date, but it had the same release date on Book Depository, so we'll see what ends up happening with that. I actually think that once I've finished my Rhythm of War read, I'm actually going to email them, but at this point it's really not a priority because the UK hardcover was shipped on release date. I was hoping for it to ship the day before, and that would have meant it would have arrived yesterday and I could have immediately jumped into it today. But I did finish my Oathbringer reread this morning, and my UK hardcover is due for delivery today. So I'm just waiting for that now. Come to me. But so yeah, I'm just gonna be impatiently sitting here waiting for my previous vlog footage to kind of get processed in the editor and then start on that as well, because it needs to go up today. So I mean, in a sense it's good that Rhythm of War isn't here yet, so I have time for that, but I just want it, I just want to know that I can dive into it, want to know that I can start it, want to know that I can go want to know that I can go and get groceries, because now I'm just like, yeah, no, I cannot leave this place. I need to be here when Rhythm of War is delivered. So yeah, first world problems all around. Like 2 o'clock, still don't have the book. Like, it's been 2.5 hours since I finished Oathbringer. I finished my editing like half an hour ago. It is exporting now. I'm going crazy, guys. So I think my conclusion is, for next time around, that when Stormlight Archive 5 is announced, I'm taking holidays from publication date and I am purchasing the ebook. Even though it will be an extra purchase, I will be buying the UK hardback, the US paperback, and an ebook. It will still be worth it, because this entire mental health breakdown, this anxiety that I'm feeling now, this whole meltdown could be avoided that way. Because at this point in time, I'm kind of like basically numb to the world, except that every time that the car door slams, I'm like standing to attention. I've been checking that status so often already. Nothing changes, of course. I'm kind of half expecting it to either like get delayed, or for this guy to kind of like be like, yeah, you weren't there, even though I'm not moving for the entire day, kind of expecting my doorbell to not work, you know. I'm just really starting to spiral out of control a little bit. So it needs to get here. I want to start, and you know, I didn't want to start Dawn Shard because I was like, yeah, but then I will never finish this one today. So then I would be like, what, 30 pages into Dawn Shard, and then Rhythm of War would arrive, and then I'd have to put Dawn Shard aside again. But now I'm actually thinking that maybe that is the healthier way to go. You know, that would at least um, distract me from what I'm going through now. But yeah, we'll see what I do. I just, I really want it here. Come on. It's 3:30. I have something in my hands. It smells like cigarettes, so the guy who delivered it totally. I hope this doesn't rub up. I do hope the book doesn't smell like cigarettes neither, but I was seriously contemplating starting Dawn Shard because I couldn't wait anymore, but oh god. Rhythm of War, it's here. So I have all the rest in the US paperback, but I ordered the UK hardcover and the US paperback. US paperback apparently isn't even out yet. I thought it also came out on release date, but so I've got this beauty over here and it is signed. So I can finally start this one. So let's see what the book actually looks like. So the hardcover itself is pretty simple, so you just have a black one with red lettering to it. And then are there any sort of like pictures to it? No. So that I hope is going to be different in the US version. So this doesn't have sort of like end pages to it. You know, it just has like the red ones. But normally the paperbacks that I have for the US version, they always have like illustrations to them, which are very beautiful. So I'm hoping that that will still be the case for the US paperback that's going to come out. And then, so this one will just have the map, I guess, at some point. So book 4. Rhythm of War, and then it just has the map to Roshar. I very much want this map on my wall, but I don't want it in color. I want it in black and white, or in like really like the sort of like sepia color. So I'm not entirely sure. Like I've been trying to find it, but I don't want to print it myself because then I like. But so yeah, I am about. Does not smell like the cigarettes. So it's a weird smell. It's also got like weird paper in the UK version. It's got super thin paper. So I will definitely say that in terms of like a reading experience, I definitely prefer the US paperback. It's very much possible that the UK paperback is also very similar to the US one. I cannot make any sort of like comment on that, but I do definitely think that so far I would say that the US paperback is nicer. Oh, beautiful. Look at that. That I do prefer the US paperback, but I also just prefer paperback in general. But yeah, I'm definitely not waiting for paperback to arrive. I'm definitely going to be reading this one now, right this second. Kat is also very eager to welcome this book into my collection. Morning. So I was kind of counting on the construction crew next door to wake me up, but obviously this is the first Saturday in which they don't start at 6 o'clock in the morning. But so it is 7 now. I'm going to be starting the Basically Readathon. So in case you don't know, Basically Readathon is a readathon that is organized every once in a while by Basically Brit. Go check out her channel. She is Dutch and she has these amazing videos, and she reads quite a diverse range of books, you know, so there'll be something in there for everybody, I'm sure. I think today she's reading The Secret History. I just saw a post of that, so go check her vlog out as well when you have a time for it. But so I love participating in it every single time. It is actually supposed to be, the goal is to read a book that's been on your TBR forever. I always break that rule. I always have some sort of a book that I want to either finish or that I want to dive into that doesn't fit this rule. In this case, it doesn't fit because Rhythm of War just released, so it's been on my physical TBR for one day. but it has been on my mental TBR for a very long time now, since I finished Oathbringer, which isn't as long as for some people because I didn't read Oathbringer at release date, but still, it's been a while. I pre-ordered this book in April, so it's been on my like I wanted this for a very long time already, so it's fine. But so yeah, I'm going to get out of bed, get some coffee, and get started on this read. I have finished a couple of more chapters in Rhythm of War. So yesterday actually I read like 75 pages and I'm at this point at like the 120 mark. And I gotta say, one of the things that I don't like books doing, and that this book does, is time jumping. I knew it from the beginning that it was gonna do a time jump. So between books 3 and 4, there is a time jump of a couple of years or a year or something like that. And I don't personally like that because it kind of takes me a while to get back in the story in that case. But at this point in time, I'm kind of catching up and I'm there. You know, I can understand the time jumps that are needed to kind of like give a sense of the length of a conflict or things like that. But I personally don't really prefer them doing it at the beginning of a book because it kind of feels like you're then like filling in the blanks, like your first big chunk of your book is just like filling in the blanks of what has happened between the last time you saw these characters and this time. You're kind of missing out on certain things. But so I'm currently, as I said, I'm currently back into the story. And I have to say, I've had to fear for one of my favorite characters' life so many times already at this point. You know, I'm 120 pages in, and this character has already been close to dying at least 3 times. So it's not really good for my heart at this point in time because I'm like, no, 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 don't. And even though I assume that one of the main characters isn't going to die in like the first 100 pages of this new 1000 page book, I, I gotta say it's really written in a way in which you fear that it's possible for it to happen. So you know, I always respect authors for doing the difficult stuff, and I know Brandon Sanderson has done so in the past, so I wouldn't put it past him to kill off one of the main POVs at some point within these books. But part of me is really hoping he doesn't at this point, though, yeah. I will say, if none of them die at some point within this series, I'm also gonna be disappointed, I guess. So there's no win-win here, you know? Like, I'll respect him for breaking my heart, but I'll still hate him for doing so as well. So, yeah, that's been my read so far. Obviously can't go into too much because of spoilers, but I am going to keep on updating you guys about like my experience with the book so far. I am listening to the Kaladin soundtrack while reading it, but I must say that I've listened to it so many times at this point that you know, it's basically just running around in my head even when I'm not listening to it. But so I am going to be continuing on. I'm taking short breaks every once in a while now because I really don't want to kind of fly through this one too quickly neither. Um, I really want to make sure that I don't get to that point where I'm just like, I need to read faster because I want to finish it in a certain time. There is no time constriction, so I can really take my time with it, even though ideally I want to finish it in a week so that I can get this up as like one single vlog. I really don't want to push myself neither. So I just got to a passage that just reminds me of one thing. There's this one element to Stormlight Archive that I really don't like, and it's such a shame because I feel like Brandon Sanderson usually does a very good job with his representation, but this one personally affects me and is one thing that I just find annoying when it happens in fantasy. And he didn't steer clear of that. He embraced that sort of trend, and that is someone having a physical disability and then it being solved through magic. I don't mind that much that, you know, in Stormlight Archive, when people draw in Stormlight, that they heal if they are cut or anything like that. But, you know, the things that marked them before they became Radiants should not be solved through Stormlight. And so I love the mental health representation in this series, for example, but I just think he missed the mark when it came to physical disabilities. You know, a physical disability shouldn't be solved with stormlights. And it's not a major part of the series or anything like that, and it's also not really, it doesn't affect any of the sort of like main point of views, and it's never put at like the central point or the central plot line of a development or anything like that. But it's always these small glimpses that we have of side characters where this is taking place, and it's just been mentioned again. That's one of these side characters has lost like a specific thing that was made that was like characteristic to that character, because it was healed through Stormlight, and I just don't appreciate it. I just don't think that that is good disability representation. Disability in real life isn't solved with a snip of the finger, and I know that this is fantasy, but this is done often in fantasy, and it's just a way of like, it's an abled view of disability where you're thinking like, where you're solving the disability rather than teaching the character how to deal with the disability and growing through it. Hey guys, 12 chapters in and I am hooked. I need to continue on with this thing now. So whereas I was kind of pacing myself up until this point, I definitely want to drive through it now and kind of just go as fast as possible. But I mean, I'm still gonna pace myself relatively well, you know. So I am now 12 chapters in. I'm totally hooked on this storyline of one of the characters that I absolutely love. And you can see that I have also done quite some marking already. So I mainly have orange ones in there. That's the storyline that I'm mainly interested in at this moment. But so yeah, I am definitely going to be reading quite a little bit more at this point today. And my kind of goal for today is the 290 page mark. So started at 7 o'clock tonight, and I'm probably ending at like midnight at the latest. So I am past the midway point of my day, I guess you would say, because it is now 3 o'clock. And I think if I keep up the same pace as I did this morning, I could get where I like where I want to be, but I want to be further than that, you know. But I also am planning to read more. I've been taking quite some breaks during the morning part of this reading day, but I definitely am like, now I'm really on pace, you know. The story has gotten past that first initial point in which it's kind of catching you up to speed to what has happened in previous years and kind of setting up the storyline which is coming. And now we're kind of like, the story is kind of shifting gears now, and it's going a little bit more and like it's going into the bulk of the story, and so that means that I'll probably also be able to up my reading pace a little bit more. But so yeah, I'm gonna stop talking to you guys and I'm gonna dive back into the story because I need to know what happens to this particular character. Hey everyone, back in the bedroom. So I've spent so much time sitting or lying down today. It's probably not super healthy. Maybe tomorrow I'll try to do some exercise. But so yeah, I just wanted to pop in and talk a little bit more about, you know, what I've read so far today. I've just taken like the big like dinner break, and I think Brit is going to go live for sort of like Instagram live reads, live reading sprints later on. So I'll definitely start again at that point in time. But I'm still on track. I still think that I'll be able to get quite some reading done today. But so I just wanted to mention that there has been quite some sort of like cosmic relations already at this point in the book. So kind of start off quite early with having like, you know, this chapters for most of Brandon Sanderson's books actually usually start with like a line at the beginning that seems to be referring to something else. It's like usually coming from a book, probably almost always coming from a book, and then we dive into the chapter itself. And like everybody who has read multiple Brandon Sanderson books knows that those parts are quite important. And so in this one we're learning a lot about the creation of Febriles. I don't know how to pronounce this. I pronounce it as Febriles. And there are quite some links with Allomancy, which is the magical system of Mistborn in there, so that's been quite nice to explore. And then we've also just had some Cosmere links with Warbreaker. These are not really like new links. We already knew of this link in like book 2, I think, he's when you're supposed to be picking up on it, but I hadn't read Warbreaker at that time yet, so I didn't see those links. I read about them afterwards, so I actually knew about them when I went into Warbreaker. But it's been interesting to see it because, you know, while there's like hints in that second book, it's really made quite obvious in this book that those links are there. So I've been really loving to see all of those Cosmere connections, and I think I've seen a lot of people say that this is really like the book for Cosmere connections and that there are so many in there. But I'm also going to be missing some because apparently if I haven't read Secret History or Mistborn Era 2, I will be missing one, which is the case because I haven't read that one yet. So, but yeah, I'm going to be diving back into the book at this point, and then tomorrow I probably won't be reading as much because I think tomorrow I want to pre-film quite a little bit for December, because on Sunday is the one day that these construction guys are not working. So I'm going to be taking full advantage of that to get quite some filming done. So it's Sunday evening. I didn't read too much for today, but I definitely wanted to comment on like one of the storylines. So without going into spoilers, as has been the case for the rest of this video. So what I think is like very smart of Brandon Sanderson to do is he's kind of changing the role of one of these characters. You know, most of the characters have kind of settled into a certain role within this gathering of radiance, but he's kind of shifted that role for one of them and kind of left this character kind of figure out what's that person wants to do with the remainder of their time. And so it's not only interesting in terms of a sort of like story progression to kind of take this character that you were expecting to go in one direction and kind of block that passage and kind of start from zero again in terms of everything is possible again with this character now. But also very interesting to see where he's actually taking that character, because at first I was like just mad at that avenue being blocked and kind of being like, what, why, no, don't do that, don't, you know, that's kind of that person's identity, and like what is that person going to do now. So at first I was kind of angry the way the character as well is angry, and then you're just kind of wondering what that character is going to do, as the character's kind of floundering themselves to kind of try and figure out where they're gonna go. But so the direction that it seems like it's going in now is just brilliant, and I'm absolutely loving it. And so I'm hoping that through this new storyline, or what I'm expecting is going to be the new storyline with that character, we might end up making our way back to the original eventually. But so yeah, I'm very much loving that, the way that Sanderson has put that out there. I will say that this second part of the novel, there is a part taking place in Shademar, which is basically like, let's call it like the negative of our world. It's the opposite of our world. Like kind of like Stranger Things, you have that sort of existence of a parallel opposite world, I think, as well. So that's kind of what Shademar is. And in Oathbringer, we also spent some time in Shademar, and there also I felt like that dragged, and here as well. I'm really not that interested in Shademar, and I think it is because in Shademar not a whole lot happens, or like there's, in both cases there's been this whole passage of time which they spend on the ship, and nothing more or less happens while they're on that ship. But because you have this sort of like because you have these storylines taking place in parallel with one another, and you need to have time pass by because they need to be journeying there because of reasons that have to do with the way that that world is set up. I feel like that kind of drags, and so I'm really hoping for that to kind of pick up, for them to get at their sort of like destination within Shademar a little bit quicker, or for something to happen while they're on that ship. But at this moment, that's really like, when I see a chapter that takes place in that perspective, I'm like, ugh, no. And it takes forever for me to get through those chapters. So that is what I will say at this point about that. But so far, still very much enjoying the book. But you know, there are some bits that are dragging a bit more, but that is probably always going to be the case with a 1,200-page book. So it is Monday. I haven't read yet today. I've basically done a whole lot of pre-filming for December, but I'm going to be starting now, and I actually do want to like get a chunk done. You know, I want to do a little bit of a like longer reading sprint session. So I have the sort of like Kaladin soundtrack to Stormlight. I don't think it's just the first book, to Stormlight Archive, that is going to be going on in the background, and that is an hour and 30 minutes. So I'm going to spend the entirety of that soundtrack reading Rhythm of War, and then so hopefully that'll get me quite a chunk further into it at this point. I mean, not like I feel like my pace is too slow. I'm also happy with the way that I'm kind of pacing myself with this one. You have to pace yourself with a 1,200-page book, but like, yeah, seeing people comments like, oh, I finished, or like, oh, I'm crying at chapter or whatever, I'm like, oh, I want to get there, but you know, it's no use like forcing myself to read it super quickly, because I also will feel like I'll be like not getting as much out of it. So I'm definitely happy with the pace that I have now, but I just want to like now really immerse myself into the story at this point of the day, and just go for a long reading sprint in it. So wish me luck. Alright, that worked out quite well, so I'm gonna do it again, because also I totally miscalculated the time that I still have. So it's now 3 o'clock. I'm gonna do it another time for an hour and a half, meaning like until 4:30, and then I actually still have an hour and a half before physical therapy, but then I might still read a little bit before physical therapy, but definitely not an hour and a half again at that point. But so basically it seems like my pace is like 52 pages in an hour and a half. I know, I'm a slow reader, it's fine. But so yeah, that means that I do definitely still want to like get 2 1.5 hour sprints in today at the very least. But it would be ideal to get 3 in there, because it would be perfect to get like 150 pages further than where I am now. That's gonna land me the sweet spots. Alright guys, stakes have been raised. It was like, it's not like it came out of nowhere, you know, it was building up, it was very clear this was gonna happen. But yeah. That is indeed the sound that my soul is making at this moment. Yeah, I just need to know what's gonna happen now. Like, I have physical therapy in an hour and a half. I'm definitely gonna try and squeeze in a couple more chapters at this point. Let me get to some better lights. But yeah, this is just looking to be so interesting at this point. and I am hoping that it stays like that, because basically I'm so close to finishing part 2, and then I have some interludes in between there, and then I get to part 3. But I've seen somebody like put it online that part 3 is quite boring. Or was it part 4? I'm not entirely sure now. I think it was part 3 that he said, but I cannot see how it could be boring considering like how high the stakes have been put at this point. Like we're really at like super action point of the story at this point. How many times can I say the word point? But yeah, I will have to see how the rest of the reading time is going to go. I'm gonna have to take that break when I go to physical therapy, but afterwards, hell yeah, I'm definitely immediately going to jump back into this book. And who knows, maybe I'll just like continue on as long as I'm able to stay focused on it. But you know, I am in that rush at this point, but who knows where I'll be in like 50 pages from now. But so yeah, things are looking interesting. I'm once again fearful for the life of my favorite character because things are not looking great. So yeah, have to check in with you guys later. Hey guys, so I think it's like 9:30 or something like that. And I think I shared with you guys earlier like my plans for having coffee and then maybe going through the night. So that didn't end up happening, and I'm going to set like I'm going to put that soundtrack on for final time today. I've already listened to it like I feel like 20,000 times in the last month, but like it'll be the fourth time or the fifth time I guess that I'm putting it on today. And I'm gonna put that on, and hopefully I'll finish it and be able to read some further 50 pages or so. But you know, we'll see. If I get too tired, I'm perfectly fine with just reading one more chapter and then ending it for tonight, and then hopefully starting early tomorrow. Um, because I know myself, when I move into the bedroom at night, into my pajamas to go and read, usually it doesn't last very long. But so I've just landed at the start of part 3, and it seems we're finally going to get a chapter from one of our main POVs, which has been missing up until this point. And it's also finally going to have these sort of flashback chapters. Like, if you don't read Stormlight Archive, first of all, why are you watching this vlog? But like, if you don't read Stormlight Archive, you might not know that there are a lot of like flashback chapters usually from the main POV of the book, and we haven't had those up until this point. I am like close to the midway point of this book, and I hadn't had a flashback chapter yet, which is an interesting choice that I'm not entirely sure that I will, you know, I'm not entirely sure what my opinion about it is going to be until I actually finish this book. So that's interesting. I'm also quite happy to see a character whose Gaia had a sort of like restricted role until this time. It's been kind of an outcast who hasn't really had much to do. It's kind of been more considered like as a burden, let's call it like that, even though nobody's ever phrased it like that. But you know, he's basically hasn't been contributing until this point. See that character find purpose within the story, find a use within the story, and that I've definitely been enjoying seeing that a whole lot. This is very vague because I'm not giving spoilers, but yeah. So I am currently on page 574. I'm diving into part 3 now, which I've seen somebody mention on Twitter is actually a very boring part. I'm hoping that I will have a different experience with it. I think the main reason is because it's going to dive into Parshendi culture quite a bit, and that person really isn't fascinated by that. And I will say that I'm not as intrigued with Parshendi parts. I used to be in a different POV, but I think that there's hope for me here, and you know, I am definitely finding myself more and more intrigued as we are getting some certain Parshendi POVs that have been very intriguing and have been like different from the sort of like standard view that we might have of the Parshendi through the story that has been built up until now. But so yeah, I'm gonna stop talking to you guys and start reading. Guys, it is Tuesday? This is like the most horrible part about being on a holiday is that you totally lose track of time. But I think it's Tuesday, right? Right, yeah. So I just ran down to the bookstore because I needed to get some essential purchases, meaning I needed to get some tabs. These are not the correct tabs, but yeah, I mean, beggars can be choosers at this point in time. So I needed pink ones because I'm out of pink ones, and they are the world building ones for Rhythm of War. So I needed some more tabs, guys. So yeah, that's my essential purchase. And somehow or another, some books followed me home. But they're all books that I've already read, so they won't add to my physical TBR, which is a loophole that I use quite often. But so the first one of these is totally in theme, and that is Elantris by Brandon Sanderson, which, by the way, I had never seen this orange cover for it. I've always seen the green one, but I actually like the orange one as well. But so yeah, this is a spoiler for December, but in December you'll see a video of mine go up in which I discuss some of my reading goals for 2021, and one of them is Cosmere related. So I will be rereading Elantris at some point in 2021, so might as well get the book. It's one of the few Cosmic ones that I don't already have. You know, it needs to be added to my Brandon Sanderson shelf over there. And a lot of people consider it one of his sort of like weaker books, and you know, I haven't compared. I don't really do a sort of like comparison between them, and maybe if I really were to dive into this one deeply, that I would see a lot more problems with it. So that'll be something for my reread. But upon first read, I absolutely enjoyed this one a lot more than I thought I was gonna because of what people were saying. So definitely don't let that hold you back from reading Elantris. There's definitely a lot of merit to it still, even though it is his weakest entry into the Cosmere. And then I also purchased another book, which is Earthlings by Sayaka Murata. So I had actually pre-ordered this one because I have read this as an ARC. I got a e-ARC by the publisher at some point, and so this is I had a very mixed experience with this book. I hated it at first, thought I was gonna put it down, but then it changed my mind. I changed my mind about it in the second part of the novel and absolutely started loving that book in the second part of the novel. So a very mixed experience with this book. But so I definitely wanted to get it because I definitely think it's unique, it's weird, it's not for everybody, but I absolutely vibed with it towards the end. So I ended up pre-ordering this one from Waterstones, the signed edition, but because of, you know, the pandemic and all of that, they didn't have enough signed copies, and so then I just canceled my order when they got in touch with me saying that they were having problems fulfilling my order, because then I was like, yeah, then I can just pick it up in a bookstore here, which I have finally done. But so at this point, I am about 650 pages into the book, and it is close to the midday point of the day, I think. I think it's like 11:30. In any case, I haven't read as much as I was going to by this time of the day, but I am still hopeful that I'm going to get quite a lot of pages into this book at this point, because I'm getting to the point where, you know, I see spoilers pop up on Twitter, and, you know, occasionally, even though you're like, you know, my mind reads faster than my eyes do. Something like my eyes are faster than my mind sometimes, because sometimes it's like, oh shit, no, that's a spoiler. And so I want to get, part of the reason why I want to chase through this, I want to read all of the spoilers first of all, because I want to be in on it. You know, I want to be able to talk about it with people, and just of course because the story has been lifted to interesting places, and I want to kind of figure out, you know, what's going to happen. I want to, you know, I'm totally engrossed at this point in the book. Anything I need to say about what I've read in the meantime in Rhythm of War? I had something I wanted to talk about earlier today, but I've forgotten what it was. We finally got like chapters in a important other POV. Yeah, that's what I wanted to talk about. So we basically have like 3 important POVs in all of the books. We have a lot of other important POVs, but I would say like if you're starting out with Way of Kings, you would probably consider that there are 3 main characters at the beginning of this book, for example, 3 people that we follow the most. And as the series has expanded, we've been adding characters to that, and there are certainly other characters that, depending on the book, we follow quite a lot of. But there are still those 3 like bare essential POVs in my point of view. And so 2 of these we've gotten POV chapters from in this book in the first 2 parts, and only now we're getting the 3rd POV. Now there is a sort of expectation being built or being created in the minds of some other people in this book that that one of the third POV is going to save the day, but I don't want it to happen. So I would be very disappointed if that will happen. If at the end of things, one of the POVs is going to just like stick in there, stall, be able to maybe start changing things around, but in the end of the day, it's going to be POV number 3 who's going to save the day. That will not work for me. I don't want it. I want all of these POVs at this point in time are separate, and I know that Brandon Sanderson has said that he wanted like that is kind of 3 stories in one, and so I kind of want them to stay separate throughout the majority of this book. Maybe they can all come together at the very end, but I don't want it to be like one of the POVs is going to save one of the others. I want them to resort to resolve their own situations individually. So we'll see whether that ends up happening or not. But so yeah, I'm going to go back and read some more. Hey guys, it's Wednesday evening. I am about 950 pages into the book at this point, so close to the finish line, like some 300 pages, so normal length novel in between there still. And I wanted to talk a little bit more about disability representation because I've been liking how some like characters with certain disabilities have been getting a little bit more focus here. There's this like there's a certain character who has like reached out to certain disabled characters to help her. But there's also a possibility for another physical disability, or I'm not entirely sure. It's not really a physical disability, but there's another possibility for a disability to get healed through becoming a radiant, and I am hoping for that character to become a radiant, but I don't want that character to be healed. So basically, this is a character who we are finally going into that person's mind, and it turns out that the character is just a little bit more slow. They're slow to process information. They were slow to learn language, and apparently they had like the umbilical cords wrapped around their neck when they were young, and so that's probably what kind of slowed down their growth. But so this character is now wants to bond a spren because they believe that they will be healed. Now I'm going to assume that because it's talked about so openly and it's mentioned so openly that that person is going to bond the spren, but they're not going to be healed, or they're not going to bond the spren, but the other people are going to say like, yeah, but you don't need to be healed, you're perfectly fine the way you are, something like that. I'm hoping that that is the case, and I don't think that Brandon Sanderson would set it up like this if he then intends to heal this character, because that would be such a wrong message, to anybody who's reading this who has any sort of a learning disability, even anything in that sort of a range of disabilities, to just like, you're basically telling those people then that there's a problem and that problem needs to be solved, whereas there isn't a problem. This person can follow perfectly well, just a little bit slower than your average human being, or than the people who are kind of like considered put in the spotlight by society. Good morning. Today is an exciting day because I'm going to be finishing Rhythm of War today. At the moment, I'm basically struggling to get up. I knew I should have put the book in my bedroom yesterday evening, but I was under the impression that it was going to motivate me to get up early. Hasn't happened. But so I am at part 5, so final part for this book. I am about 150 pages away from finishing it. I have to say I was so proud of myself, but I figured out what Brandon Sanderson was doing probably you were supposed to figure it out, but hey, I'll give myself the credit there, I I hatched onto the early clues and I was like, wait, is this going where I think it's going? And then, there was some more foreshadowing that was kind of like, you know, confirming my suspicions, but like somewhere at the end of part two, we got the information. I was like, yes, finally, finally. Usually not really that great with Brandon Sanderson and really fully predicting some of the things. I can kind of see where storylines are going in general direction, but like predicting like the bombs that he drops is usually not really something that I'm good at. So finally. But so yeah, basically this is me stalling on getting out of bed and giving you guys an update. But yeah, I guess I need to get out of the comfort of the bed. Just gotta come here and say, guys, that chapter 108, or the entire build up to 108, it's so heartbreaking. So emotionally prepare for when you get to that part of the book. So we are very much in the climax of this book at this point. Kat also wants to share her opinions about the book. No? Fine. So we're very much reaching the climax of this book at this point, and like, I'm unsure which choice Brandon Sanderson is going to make here. And I really only have one that I want to see happening, but I'm sure that if he chooses something else, he can probably spin it in a way that I'll accept it, but I'm just hoping for it to end the way that I want it to end, selfishly. So it is 3 o'clock. I finished Rhythm of War. I will say that like the final, like, I don't know, 50 pages or so were difficult to get through, just because I had the same experience with Oathbringer, where you're like led to this super high point in the story, and then it's kind of setting up the next one. And like in Oathbringer was a little bit different. In Oathbringer, he was kind of rounding off the story, so I do prefer this ending because it does set up towards what is going to be coming afterwards. And but it was just a little bit more difficult for me to kind of push through then, because I didn't really have any more motivation to see what was going to happen, because like I had already been but it did make it a little bit more difficult to push through to those final 50 pages, just because there wasn't as much, stakes anymore. And, also I know I need to wait for the next one. So I didn't really want to get hyped up for the next one, but it happened because, I think it was pretty fine until we got to like the final until we got to like the epilogue, because man, that epilogue really set me up. I really am so hyped for the next one now. That epilogue, it was something. I cannot say anything about it, of course, but so yeah, it was a very interesting experience. I hope you've enjoyed this sort of like Rhythm of War walkthrough. I know that I have done my best to avoid any type of spoilers, and I think I've been pretty good about that. And so it's kind of a nonsensical reading vlog in that sense, because you really don't really know what I'm talking about. But I hope you enjoyed it nonetheless. I will say that, so I've really enjoyed this one. Is it my favorite one? I don't know. I think I would have to like reread the entirety for me to choose a favorite. It's definitely up there with like Words of Radiance, Way of Kings. Oathbringer will remain like my least favorite entry into the series at this point, and I think that has everything to do with what my least favorite of the 3 main POVs is. And so this book was definitely a good one for my favorite POV. And yeah, it did a whole lot of like world building and a whole lot of Cosmere connections. I think there are connections here to every single book within the Cosmere so far. Maybe not to like Emperor of Souls, the short novella, the like novella. I would have to reread that one. I think there's also connections to White Sand, which I've personally not yet read, but there were some like sand stuff going on within this book that really made me go like, Sand that turns from black to white, and there's a book, like there's a series that he's written that's called White Sand. I'm gonna assume that that's a link. But so that's just made me extra motivated to dive back into the Cosmere in 2021. In 2021, which I will mention in a video coming at you beginning of December somewhere. I am going to be rereading quite a lot of Cosmere works, and so I'll be very happy to look for those links now that I've seen a lot of things here. I've marked quite a lot of things here that I think are links to certain powers that exist within the other Cosmere worlds. So yeah, if you haven't read Rhythm of War yet, like definitely there's a lot to look forward to. If you're somebody who's like trying to find the links within the Cosmere, it's definitely one to look forward to. I personally don't necessarily mind that that I haven't read the entire Cosmere before going into this, because you know it entices me to kind of look for more of them. I think you can kind of spots which are probably links. I think in the first books in this series in Stormlight Archive, there have been Cosmere links that were only there for people to realize if you've actually read other works within the Cosmere. But in this one, there's a lot more of a conscious effort made to talk about the Cosmere as a whole. There's a lot more exploration of the subject matter of different worlds within this one. So it is pointed out a little bit more obviously from time to time. And then there are these more like subtle hints that you notice if you've actually read the books. But so it is actually going to be interesting for me to reread it once I have read more of the Cosmere. So I'm not hating myself for not having, like I'm not sad that I haven't read all the Cosmere yet. I still have more to explore, and you know it'll be even more fun to dive back into some of these books at that point. But so yeah, I'm going to be ending the vlog here. I hope you enjoyed it, and like if you want to talk to me about Rhythm of War in the comments, feel free to, but please avoid any sort of spoilers. This is a non-spoiler video, so please just avoid any of that. I will be doing a review about Rhythm of War on my channel, and probably I'm also going to do a spoiler-filled review, and in that case you can talk to me about your Rhythm of War spoilers in the comments of that one. So I'm still planning to get some Rhythm of War content out there, just because there's so much to dive into and there's so much I want to discuss which is related to spoilers, that I definitely do think I'm gonna get a sort of like spoiler-filled version of a review out as well. But so yeah, until the next time guys, see you, bye!